So today we are going to talk about strings in Java. In Java, strings are much more than a character array. So if we have to store something like prep bytes or any sequence of characters, till now in C or C++ we have been using character array. But again, in Java, strings are much more than character array. So let's see what are strings in Java and what are the methods that revolve around it and what are the few concepts that you must know about strings. So let's proceed further. So the very first question is, what is string in Java? Is string a data type? The answer to this is, string in Java is not a primitive data type like int, long or double. The string is a class defined in java.lang package. So if string is a class, let's see how we can use it. So let's say I want to create a new string prep bytes. How can we do that? So we can do that using this string class. So we are using the string class here. We are creating an object. We are creating a string object, and this object is pointing to this particular string. So when we do this, a string called prep bytes is created in memory, and this is the heap memory. And this prep points to this particular string. One more thing to know about string is that these strings are backed by a character array. When I'm saying backed by a character array, you can actually get these characters using the methods that are there in the string. We will see how do we do that. But these strings are backed by a character array. So this is how strings are stored. We store them, we use them using classes and objects, but they are also backed by a character array. We will see how do we do various operations on strings. Before that, we also need to know that there are various constructors of string class. We are going to talk about few of them here. So let's say we have to create new strings using constructors. How do we do that? So let's talk about few string constructors. So this is a string constructor with no arguments. So this creates a new string in memory which is not having any character. Now let's say we have to create a string again. Let's say prep bytes using constructors. So we can do something like this. We create a string object and we create a new string prep bytes. So again, this creates a new string containing same sequence of characters given in the argument. So if we are giving prep bytes here, then a new string prep bytes is created in the memory, and this string object points to that particular memory location. Now let's say I have a character array and I want to create string using that character array. So we have character here. So we have character array here, and we are creating a new string s using this character array. So what happens that as we do this particular operation, we have ABC as a string created in the memory, and this object variable s points to this particular string in memory. We also have string builders. We can create string using string builders. So we will see what is string builder, and then we will understand what is the difference between string builder and string. As of now, just try to understand that if we have to create a new string from a string builder object, so we have string builder, we create a new string using string builder, and we assign that to this particular string object. We will talk about string builder in much more detail. Then you will understand the difference between string and string builder. String builder is another very important topic. So these are few constructors. There are many constructors. I have discussed few here. So depending upon the use case that we have, we can use these constructors. Now let's proceed further. Next, we are going to talk about concatenation of two strings. So we can use this particular operator, we can call this as addition operator, to join two strings. Let's see how we can do that. So let's say I have a string 1, string message 2, which has prep and bytes, and we create a new string and we concatenate these two strings. Concatenate means we join two strings. So if we try to print message after this particular operation, we get prep bytes as the output. So message 1 and message 2 is concatenated and has formed one particular string. So these two were strings, right? So there could be a scenario when I want to join a string and an integer. That can be done as well. So we have roll number here, let's say 255, and we have to create a new string ID. So if we do something like, we have a string constant and we have the age, which is this also gives me a new string ID, which will look something like this. So we can join strings using this particular operator. So we know till now that string is a class and every class has methods to operate on the objects, right? Similarly, we have lots of methods in string as well. We will discuss some of the very important methods here. So let's go and talk about them. So now let's say you have a string prep bytes and you want to know that what is the length of prep bytes. When I say length, means how many characters are there. So here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 characters. So to get the number of characters or the length of a string, we use the length method. This is the method. So we have the object and we call this method length method on this particular object. So this length contains the length of the prep string. So if we try to print this particular length, we get 9 as the output. So this is something which you will use quite often when we are using string, which is length method. So we call this method on any object, string object, whose length we want to calculate. Now let's say this is one way I have created the string. This is another way I create a string. So this is a way we have created the string. Again, for getting that what is the length of this particular string, we use prep object and call length method. And again, when we print this, we get 9 as the output. So I'll repeat, length is used to calculate length of the string. So strings equality again is a bit different. Let's talk about it. So let's say I create two strings, S1 and S2. Both are having same sequence of characters. S1 is also having same sequence of characters, which is prep bytes. S2 is also having same sequence of characters. Now let's say if I do something like print S1 equal to S2, which means we are checking that if S1 and S2 are same, then we will print true, and if S1 and S2 are different, we will print false. So if we see these two set of characters, these two strings, they are same, right? So this particular operation should give me true. But when you execute this particular statement, you get false. Why is that? Let's see. So what happens here, we are creating an object S1. So we have a string prep bytes. So let's say this is the Java heap area, right? So we are creating an object S1 and we are creating a different object S2. So S1 also points to prep bytes and S2 also points to prep bytes. But S1 and S2 are two different objects. They are not same objects. These two are different objects. So when you are doing S1 equal to S2, we are checking is S1 equal to S2. We are actually talking about two different objects which are not same, right? So this gives me false. So when we do this particular operation, we are not actually checking that whether the set of characters in this particular string and this particular string is same. We are checking that whether this particular object and this particular object is same, which is not the case. These two are different sets of objects, different objects stored in different memory location. So this will give me true. So this will give me false. So let's say I have done something like this. Now when we do this, again S1 is a different object and this prep bytes is a string constant. These two again are stored in different memory locations. So this will again give me false. So now how do I see whether two strings are equal or not? So when I'm saying checking two strings are equal or not, we want to check that whether the two strings are having same set of characters or not. So how do we do that? So we do that using this method, equal method. So we have a equal method. So when we do S1 dot equal S2, so S1 is one string, S2 is another string. We are checking that whether all the characters of S1 and S2 are same. So here it is checked that whether this particular set of characters and these particular set of characters are same or not. So in this case, if both of them are same, we get true, else we get false. Now there could be a scenario where we have difference in case. So let's say we have one string which is prep bytes and we have another string so though the characters are same but there is different in case. So this is lowercase, this is uppercase. So we want to check that whether the characters are same irrespective of the case or not. So we use this particular method, s1 dot equal ignores case s2. So we ignore the case. So generally in this case, uppercase and lowercase are considered as different. Here we do not consider both of them as different. So these are the few things that you need to know about string equality. We'll talk about them more. Let's proceed further. And this is another way when we want to check that S1 is equal to prep bytes or not. So when we want to check a string object against a string constant. So in this case again we will get true as the output, since S1 is having sequence of characters as prep bytes. Now let's proceed further.